Most of us who hunt on private property, whether that's land we own, it's family land, or it's land that we lease, hunt on smaller properties. And by small property, it kind of really depends on your definition. Size is a relative term, and that's what I tell my wife too. A small property to me is anything less than 250 acres. And I can guarantee you there's a lot more people who hunt on 250 acres or less, or probably even more, that are hunting on 40 acres or less than there are that are hunting those 500 or 1,000 acre tracts of land. And I know there's this kind of conception that you got to own lots and lots of land to kill or grow big mature bucks consistently, but that's just not true at all. I mean, sure, bucks' home ranges tend to be in the few hundred acres, 400 acres or so, but you can shrink down their home ranges into a relatively smaller area if you can provide everything they need on your property. And no, you are not going to be able to keep a buck on your property 100% of the time, no matter really how big your property is, unless you're in that 1,000-acre range. But you can ensure that they spend more time in your area during daylight hours by providing what they need when they need it. And since we hunt these smaller properties, we are sharing our deer herd with our neighbors. There's just no way around it. And maybe they don't share the same goals that you do. Maybe they don't really care about the age of bucks or the size of bucks. Hopefully they're shooting only legal deer, but we'll leave that. But maybe they don't share the same goals as you, and maybe they're just the brownest down type. They only hunt for meat. You can't eat the antlers, as they'd probably say. Now, you can probably try to talk to them, but a lot of people aren't very receptive to you trying to, change their mind or talk them into not shooting deer. So there's really not a whole lot you can do except increase the attractiveness of your property so bucks spend more of their daytime hours on your property and not your neighbors. So in this video, we're going to go over 3 ways that you can increase the attractiveness of your property so bucks spend more time on your land and not your neighbors. But before we go over these tips, do me a favor, and if this is your first time on my channel, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you click that bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload a video. And the first way that you can increase the amount of activity or the amount of time deer spend on your property during daylight hours, it's probably the most important part of this, is to provide quality defined cover. Knowing where the cover is the most important part of the hunting puzzle, at least in my opinion. If you are providing quality cover, it absolutely changes the hunting game. So if you are constantly dealing with nocturnal bucks on your property year after year during the hunting season, maybe they're not visiting your well-manicured food plots until after the cover of darkness, there is probably 2 things happening. Either they do not feel comfortable on your property during daylight hours, or they have to travel too far from their bedding to their food. It is not too late to improve the quality cover on your property to help you out even this hunting season. I know it's July, it's going to be really hot, but that sweat equity is going to be well worth the effort. Pick an area on your property, maybe an acre, it could even be as small as half an acre in size, an area where you could effectively hunt it without alerting deer, and then just remove the canopy. Just get in there, drop all the trees, flush cut some, hinge cut some, and make sure you treat the stumps of anything you don't want to come back. Not only is this going to put structure on the ground that deer love to bed in, but it's also going to provide some woody browse that is going to be pretty important during that late season stressful part of the year. So creating a bedding thicket gives you 2 things. It gives you that very important defined cover aspect that gets better over the next few years, and it provides a good food source in the amount of, like I said, woody browse, stump sprouts coming up, more forbs coming up. So it's like a 2-fold benefit to your property. Just make sure that you plan them out carefully. It'll take a long time to fix a bedding thicket put in the wrong place. If you need to, hire a consultant. Another set of eyes never hurts. And the second thing that you need to successfully and consistently hunt big bucks on your smaller property is killer access. Especially on smaller properties, you do not want to be bumping deer. Just as you are trying to pattern them, they are patterning you. If you are constantly bumping deer when you're coming to and from the stand, they're just going to learn to avoid the area at least during the daylight hours. Good access is the key to slipping in and out of your property undetected. You do not want your scent blowing all across your property or having to walk through the middle of it just to get to your stand, because even if you're walking through the middle of it in a good wind direction for the stand you're hunting, you're blowing out the other half of your property. If at all possible, keep your road system or your access trails to the border of your property. That way you are not walking straight through the middle of it, and give yourself multiple stand locations so you can hunt those high percentage days regardless of the wind direction. We only have a finite number of days to hunt, and so we need to be able to hunt when we have the opportunity to hunt. And we don't want to, if we narrow our opportunity down so small to only a handful of days because our access is crap and we don't have the options and we're waiting for those high percentage good days, that's not a whole lot of fun. We want to be able to hunt whenever we can. So you got to really think these things through. Give yourself the options so you can hunt no matter what the wind direction is. And I know a lot of people say that you should just stay off your property. Too much intrusion is going to keep you from being able to shoot big bucks, and I agree to a point that you don't want to be spending every weekend down there riding four-wheelers, blowing through your ammo, but you also don't want to keep yourself from not being on your property at all. You still need to be able to enjoy that property. You can't improve the property if you're not down there when it's not hunting season. So you really have to strike that balance between minimizing intrusion and enjoying the property. I don't think that it doesn't make much sense to me for you to stay away at all times, because then that's how you end up with these properties that have just not been improved, that degraded over the years because no improvement's been done, because you're trying to limit, you're going to that far extreme of limiting intrusion. So strike that balance. And the third way to consistently kill big bucks on your smaller property is you have to identify what it's lacking. In my opinion, I think that the vast majority of properties have these are their top two issues. The first one is quality cover. The vast majority is just closed canopy, wide open ground level woods. There's no cover, no food value in any of that. So your first big problem is going to be cover for 99% of the people. And the second is, if you are having trouble seeing or shooting any deer on your property during the hunting season, the second, it's probably going to be your access. If you fix those two things, you have good cover and you have corrected how you enter and exit your property, even with not so good cover and not having your awesome food plots, you're going to see more deer. So then you've got to move beyond that. Once you fix those two things, then you can move beyond that. Now, before some people freak out down in the comments because it's happened before, I'm not saying don't do your food plots. I really enjoy doing food plots. There's just something about, I don't know, maybe I was a farmer in a past life or something. I just like the idea that I made that stuff grow and deer enjoy it and all that, and that's perfectly fine. Do that too, but your number one focus for most people, like I said, should be cover and your access. So your number one and number two. Always be thinking about how you're entering and exiting your property when you're hunting. But then after that, you have to move on to what that next lowest hole in your bucket is. So think of it this way. I heard this analogy, and I think it was from Land and Legacy. It was, if you imagine you've got a bucket and you're trying to hold water in it, but there's all these holes in it. And so you can only hold water up to that lowest hole. So your cover and your access are 1 and 2 most of the time. So then what's that next one? A lot of times it's going to be your quality food, and it's your quality food outside your food plot. So once you're moving up that area, you're increasing the carrying capacity, you're increasing the ceiling of how big of the bucks are on your property that you can grow. Now, hopefully that analogy made sense. I kind of rambled a little bit, but so you fix your cover, and then so look at an aerial map, figure out what it is your property's missing. I mean, food, water, cover is what everything needs to survive. So you're trying to figure out what that next thing is that's lacking on your property, or maybe you're trying to figure out something that's missing in the area entirely, not just on your property, that you can provide to make your place the destination where bucks want to spend their times during daylight hours. That will help you harvest bigger bucks, that will help you enjoy your hunts more, that will help those bucks grow bigger if they're spending more time on your property and not your neighbors, especially for those younger ones. So you're just moving on. You're tackling each task as you go. You could probably boil all my rambling down into always look for something to improve. There's always something that can get better. And I'm not sorry to say it because I enjoy doing the work. There's always something that can be improved. There's no reason on these smaller properties, there's no reason that you can't have big deer to hunt year after year, short of unless you're shooting them before they have the chance to get big. So that was 3 ways that you can consistently have big deer to hunt on your smaller properties. If you've got any more tips you'd like to share, more ways that you've improved your smaller property to increase your chances of success, leave that down in the comments below. Hit that like button if you like this video, share it if you found it helpful, and make sure that you're subscribed so you can stay informed.